Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another super cool radio interview. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have an awesome guest who I'm excited to have on the podcast. He's the bassist for Big D and the Kids Table, and on May 2nd, he released his debut solo album entitled Benergy. Please welcome Ben Basile.
Hey, super happy to be here. Thank you for having me. And by happy to be here, I mean here at my home, which is nice. It's nice to be home.
Well, it's nice to virtually meet you. I know we have so much to discuss because obviously you've been very busy this year.
It has been a very busy year.
So before we really dive into everything, I have a fun but challenging question to kick off this interview, a question I've been asking my guests this season. So I'm curious for you, what is one album you think everyone should listen to in their lifetime?
So the first record that comes to mind is Hank Mobley's Soul Station. Okay? Hank Mobley is a jazz saxophone player. I'm not sure what year the record came out, but it has a killer band and it's the record that I recommend to everyone when they ask me like, hey Ben, what's a good jazz record? Like, where should I start? Or like if I'm at a party and they ask me to put a record on, like I put that record on. It's called Soul Station. It's very much hard bop jazz. And it is just like perfect from front to start. And I think it's a perfect record, and I think everybody should check it out if they have not heard it.
Well, that's a very good pick. I'm familiar with Hank, and he is like, I think he's underrated. For how many people don't know about him, I think he's underrated.
Yeah, I mean, he's not as big as Coltrane or Wayne Shorter, like the other saxophone players, but I think Hank Mobley is just absolutely wonderful. Follow-up counter question. Could I have said my new record?
Yes, I thought you might, but yes, you could have said that too.
Okay. Second important record for everybody to check out would be my new record, Benergy.
Well, very nice. Well, we'll be diving into that album because I got some great questions for that. But I'm kind of curious, though, for like you, like what was your inspiration to pursue music? Like, what'd you listen to growing up?
I, listened to punk rock and ska, and mostly ska punk as I was growing up. And then it wasn't until, a little bit later when I got into jazz and more of the traditional ska. So it's pretty much, I was like a ska kid from the start. But it wasn't until much later that I became a ska musician.
Interesting. So like growing up, did you ever see yourself like pursuing like, ska music like as you do now?
No, not at all. No. Huh. I was like, I was very happy just being in the crowd and dancing and having a good time. But that was, it wasn't until college I even considered becoming a musician. And then it wasn't until a little after college that I was like, wait a minute, I can play ska now. This is cool. And then I started after college. Yeah. What did you grow up listening to, Matthew?
So for me, it was mostly like, I had an older brother who was like 6 years older than me. So like whatever he was listening to, I was most likely listening to. So that's how like he listened to Alice Cooper growing up. So that's, obviously one of my favorites, like Deep Purple. So I would say a lot of like classic rock. Mm-hmm. And then like 18, 19, I discovered like punk rock music. I listened to like Black Flag, and I was a really big fan of Rollins Band growing up. Cool. So that's I listen to so much now, like, metal, punk, rock, ska, really almost anything nowadays.
Yeah. I imagine with the podcast, you get turned on to a lot of cool bands and albums. It's funny that you say that because it was my older sister who got me into ska and punk rock as well. And I think older siblings don't, at least in the moment, I don't think they recognize how important their role is to their younger siblings, especially for something that's as impressionable like music choice, right? I just said to my sister this last week, I said, I bet you had no idea that like everything that I do had started when you handed me some CDs in middle school. Like she had no idea, Yeah,
I don't think growing up you see it, especially like being in like an older sibling, but like a lot of this like arts, I would say I've like learned or was exposed to through my brother with everything, like movies, music, art in general. Like if he was like sort of remotely interested in it, I was at least aware of it or checking out or was a fan of it like him.
Yeah, totally. As much as we don't want to admit it, we look up to our older siblings.
Oh yeah, no, and I think it's cool because then like like growing up, you have that connection of like stuff you like, and that kind of strengthens the relationship. That's why I still have a good relationship with my brother growing up, and we still go to concerts together. Like we just saw, I think the last concert was we saw Iggy Pop in Chicago, so like
Awesome.
stuff like that. It's just so cool to have that shared interest in music.
Yeah.
But now, like diving in, so obviously focusing on your new solo album. So I'm kind of curious. Obviously, as I said, Benergy out right now. So, like, what inspired you to write a solo album?
Yeah, I have been a musician, since college. So we're going on 15 years now. A little more than that, actually. And I have been in many bands over the years, played with many different songwriters, different artists. And this is kind of the first time I'm like putting the flag in the ground as Ben Basile. And what actually inspired it was January 2023. My friends and some of my bandmates are in another band called The Pomps, and they had a new single like come out right then, January 2023. And I was like, oh man, this is like so fucking good. And I was like stoked to see that my friends were putting out some very good music on their own, like in a side project, not in Big D and the Kids Table. And I was just like, I think it's time for me to do my own thing, like finally. And then, I made it my New Year's resolution to record the record that would become Benergy. And we finished recording in December of that year. And then in 2024, we did mixing, mastering, finding the awesome record label that is Sleepwalk Sounds that the record came out on. And then we got everything lined up for it to just come out this May. So the actual process of the record was about 2.5 years, but some of the songs that were written well before that.
So I'm kind of curious. So like, as you said, you're in many bands and currently in a band as well. So like for this solo album, was it a different writing and recording experience compared to like being in a band?
Absolutely. Right. As the solo artist, it was all on me. And writing music. Let's just use Big D as a kid in the Kids Table as an example. Like I am 1/6 of the band. I am mostly in charge of the bass department. I do not really get to tell the horn players what to do. I do not get to write the lyrics or anything like that. So, being in a band with other members, it's a lot more collaboration. Versus when you're doing like your own solo record that like Ben Basile will be the name. So it was really fun for me because I got to write for the whole band, and I never really get to do that with any of the other projects that I'm in. So it's very much a entirely different process. And yeah, I mean, it was all written like right here on my computer by myself, staying up really late, writing in the morning with a cup of coffee. And it all started like right here, just me. And then as the music was sent out to the musicians, there's a little bit more collaboration and variation based on what each of the musicians bring to the recording session. And then, of course, I had a producer on the record. My best friend, John Deegan, was the producer. And so him and I were bouncing some ideas back and forth. So there is a little bit of collaboration, but a lot less than being in a proper band with other musicians.
Oh no, for sure, and definitely, I can imagine you're in charge of everything. Not just like the bass in a band, but also all the sounds. Obviously, you're in charge of that. You're the one who obviously created it, and it's your with your album. So I'm kind of curious, like, was there any like songs or a particular song that was the most challenging either to write or complete or figure out that sound? Did you have any issues like that?
I actually feel like everything came together pretty well. I wouldn't say that there was like a standout song that was challenging. But that doesn't mean there wasn't like a harder song, right? Like obviously, if 10 tracks, there's going to be one that's harder than the other ones. Yeah, I'll tell you, it was probably track 8, Daily Deluge, and I knew that I wanted that to be like very different than everything else on the record, and it was going to have like a lot more like dub, echo effects, like the laser dub sound, like all that fun stuff. And then it was kind of like, all right, well, like how much do I want this to be different? And then like how much is too far away? And so there was a little bit of like navigation with John and I on like, okay, how far away is this going to step from everything else? But we still want it to feel like a part of the record and cohesive, but not like a complete left turn. You know what I mean? So, that, kind of that flow of the record is really important, right?
Oh no, it definitely is. And I've listened to the album. What I really like is that flow of like one song into the next song into the next song. I think it's done very well. But like each song, especially like with instrumental, I know like we were talking about this a little earlier. It's hard sometimes for some people to like listen to it if it doesn't have lyrics. And I always enjoy if instrumental music is done well, that you won't miss the lyrics because you're focusing on music. And that's what I really noticed with your album, is that all these songs are unique enough that they stand out, but that they, like, you can tell, like, okay, nothing is a complete, like, you're not doing death metal on one of the songs.
Yeah, yeah. And that was a conscious decision going into the record. I knew there would be 10 tracks. I knew that I wanted the instrumentation to slightly change throughout the record so that it did not just feel like the same ska band on the same tracks throughout the whole record. And I knew that I'm obviously aware of the slight uphill battle of instrumental music, right? And so I knew that there had to be just subtle differences throughout the record so that it flows and it didn't feel static at the same time. So, conscious things like, well, there's only horns on about half of the songs, right? And for a couple of those tracks, it's like the proper 3-piece horn section. One of those tracks has a 4th horn on it. There's one song that just only has saxophone as the lead. And that's actually a different saxophone player than the one who played on the other 4 tracks with the horn section. So like those little bit of different, like that one track, which is Cacao Nib, which only has John on saxophone. John didn't play sax on any other part of the record. So the saxophone on that song feels very different than Matt Garrison, who played sax on the other songs, right? And then I just knew there would be some songs where like organ or guitar would play the lead melody, or piano. Like there's enough variation. It's the same bass player on all the tracks, and it's the same rhythm section on all the tracks. But everything on top, I knew I wanted to just like feel a little different as you went through the record.
Oh, I think you accomplished it really well. I would say like my favorite song, the one that stood out to me, was Hot Drop. That was my favorite.
I'll be honest with you, Matthew. This has been the most fun part about putting the record out. Is like, I make it, I write it, I put it out, and then just hearing what everybody's favorite track is and like what songs resonate with them has been very interesting to me. I'm kind of surprised by the ones that a lot of people are saying are their favorites. It's been really fun.
And especially for that track, for me, when I was listening to it, it just felt a little bit more like upbeat and a little bit more, like, for lack of a better term, it just sounded a little happy and upbeat, and that's what it really like stood out to me. Because then like you followed up with Negative Peace, which is a little bit more like mellow and slowed down.
Definitely, yeah. Have you figured out, or do you know what Hot Drop is a reference to?
No, I was gonna ask. I was curious. No, I did not figure it out.
Hot Drop is slang from playing Fortnite. Do you know what Fortnite is?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. You play? Have you played, or do you play?
No, so I have not played it, but obviously I'm familiar with the game.
All right. I think everybody should listen to Benergy first, and then if you have some more spare time, go play Fortnite with your friends. It's really fun. Anyways, so yeah, Hot Drop is slang from Fortnite, and I knew I wanted to write a song that was just like intense and kind of in your face, and just like playing Fortnite is. So that was the inspiration behind that.
Interesting. Yeah. I think almost everyone has at least heard the name Fortnite. At least
Totally.
if you've been on the internet for about 5 minutes, you've probably seen something.
I mean, they've had Fortnite jokes on SNL, man. Like it's massive.
Yeah, they had their own like sponsored monster truck for like one of the events. So like, it's everywhere. But it's really cool, and like definitely matches like what you're saying. It definitely matches that, and I just thought it was more like fast paced, and that's what kind of like stood out to me. Plus, it's just really it's really catchy. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So now you're talking a little bit about the musicians who were on the album, but you like recruited some incredible musicians. So like, how was it like, putting this together, have these musicians on your album?
Yeah, I mean, your first thought is like, who are my friends? um, and who can I work with really well? And I actually was able to get people like who fit both of those categories to play on the record. So I started with asking the Big D and the Kids Table Rhythm section, Alex Stern, Alex Brander, and Casey Grudedaria. And I said, hey guys, like, I'm doing this thing. Would you guys be, interested, available in playing? I'm imagining the recording session will look like this and blah, blah, blah. And I've been playing with Big D for going on 13 years. And it was a pleasure to be able to, have the rhythm section from Big D play on my record with me. It was also really fun. As I mentioned before, like being in the band with them, it's more collaborative, right? But when they were playing on my record, I kind of got to tell them what to do, which was a whole different experience with my friends where it's like, no, I think I want to do it like this. Whereas like, I don't get to say those sort of things, anyways. And then my best friend also plays in Big D, John Deegan. I had asked him very early on to produce the record because he is just a wonderful musician. He can play any instrument you pick up, he picks up. And he's also very good at like Pro Tools and doing all the mixing and that computer side of doing a record, which I know nothing about. And then the horn section is a longtime friend of mine, Matt Garrison, fantastic saxophone player from the New York City jazz scene. Greg Robinson, who plays trombone in Mephistopheles. He also lives in New York City and he plays in the jazz scene down there. And then my college best friend, Vince Tampio, he lives in Philadelphia and he's a trumpet player down there in that scene as well, and he plays trumpet on the record. And then another college friend, Sean Morrison, who I like learned how to play jazz with because we went to college. He played piano on 2 tracks as well. So it's it's a little bit like just assembling your like dream all-star team, and you just go for it.
Well, I think it turned out really well. So I'm kind of curious. So with having members from Big D and the Kids Table, so how was it for you? Like directing, like no, we're going to sound like this, or we're going to do this. Like, were they, how'd they react to that?
Oh, they loved it. I mean, they're all great musicians, and they have all worked and recorded and played with multiple people, so they understand. It's like, all right, Ben has a specific vision, and I'm going to do my best to honor that vision. They're all professionals and we're friends, so it's all good, but I don't really get to specifically write like all the parts in the Big D and the Kids Table song. So like, I kind of, it was different for me to be able to kind of ask them to play a part a certain way and things like that,
Well, Ryan, obviously it sounds like it went really well. Obviously it helps, hanging out, recording music with your friends, obviously makes the process go a lot smoother.
Absolutely.
So for you, like, did you just stick on bass with this album, or did you also play some other instruments?
Good question. I played all the bass, and then in the studio overdubbing stuff later on. I did play some piano, and I don't know, maybe I did a shaker or something like that. Yeah, but all the bass is me, and then I played a little bit of piano. Did I play?
Right on.
Like I might have did like a percussion sample somewhere that then just went.
All right. I very much enjoyed the album. As I said, it is out right now, so definitely check it out. Give it a listen.
Please do. It's on Spotify, everywhere you can listen to music. Go check it out. If you have a record player, please buy it on vinyl. It looks good and it sounds even better on vinyl. So,
well, if anyone's interested, where can they pick that up on vinyl?
Sleepwalksounds.com. That's the record label.
Very good. I will leave a link for that in the description. Make sure physical copies help out, so much. So definitely, if you like it, pick up some vinyl. Plus, vinyl's awesome.
Yeah.
But now, before I got some live music questions I did want to ask. Before we do that, though, so I'm kind of curious, kind of wrapping up the recording side. So for you, with this album, how'd you know when a song is complete, that you're like happy with it or that it sounded good?
Yeah, totally. Well, ultimately, when you have a record and a recording session, scheduled, you have a little bit of a deadline, right? So like there's that side of it as well, that you're like, okay, I need to be happy with this before this timeline, right? So that's obviously at play. But my composition process. So I write music in a music writing program on the computer called Finale. And you basically put out the entire score of the music, and then I click and put all the dots in, like the sheet music, and then it plays it back to me. So I wrote all the songs in Finale with the main goal of like, if I can get this like computer generated, what we call MIDI demo, and it basically sounds like old Nintendo music. But if I can get this like MIDI demo to sound and feel good as a reggae and as a ska song, then I know that once it gets recorded by real musicians, it's going to sound even better, right? So I was writing it with like that goal in mind. I was like, how do I get this computer sound, like MIDI sound, to feel good as a song, and then take it from there and make it even better. So, and that helps me like write for the whole band, because I'm writing all the parts and hearing them back through the computer MIDI. And then, yeah, so once it like felt good and I was like, I could listen to this, fill in the solo here, imagine what that would feel and sound like. And then, yeah, that was like all part of that process.
Obviously with that, like, if you're already digging it before it's even like recorded by, the musicians that you pick, like that's probably a very good indication of the song.
Yeah.
Oh, right on. Well, so now I did want to switch to the live performance side, because I saw that you have some live solo shows coming up starting on June 5th. So, like, what can people expect from this? Do you have a full band? Like, what's going on with those?
Yeah, totally. So this is my first time headlining as Ben Basile and playing my own original music ever in my life. So I've got 4 shows starting in Newark, New Jersey, all points west on that Thursday you just mentioned. Then we come up to Poughkeepsie, New York, which is my hometown, and we're going to play at Reason and Ruckus. And then we go out to Boston. We're just going to play in Medford, Massachusetts, at the Medford Porch Fest, which is free outside and during the day. And then we're going to come back to Westfield, which is just outside Springfield, Massachusetts, and play at a place called Hootke's at the Nook. So yeah, a little like 4 dates in a row. And what can you expect? It is most of the musicians who recorded on the record, though I wasn't able to get every single musician. And we're just going to be recreating the whole record. The tracks will be a little bit longer. We're going to stretch them out because it's live, longer solos, a little bit more improvisation and freedom in the song, than when we recorded it, when I had like a little bit of a time restraint, putting it on a record. And then we're going to do a couple other covers and arrangement songs of other tunes done ska and reggae. And the most exciting thing is probably that my identical twin brother will be playing trombone in the band. So you're going to walk in and go, whoa, hold on. Which one's Ben Basile? Yeah, that's right. Ben plays bass. Who's the other guy that looks exactly like him? Well, that's his twin brother, Anthony.
Obviously, you got some great shows, great venues booked for your headlining solo stuff. So I'm kind of curious, like, do you approach like, your solo album differently than like performing with Big D and the Kids Table?
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. First off, me playing my own music and being the band leader and frontman is a lot more stressful.
A lot more job titles. It's
certainly more expensive. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, right? Like all the other bands I play in, I'm the bass player. I'm generally on the side of the stage. And I will now understand what it will feel like to be a frontman. Being in the front and center of the stage, being the one that needs to talk to the crowd the whole night, and playing their own original music, and of course trying to promote it, make sure people are coming and buying tickets and buying records. Like all of that has been on me, for the first time really ever. With all the other bands, it's more collaborative, and or the band leader takes most of that. So yeah, it's gonna be very different than being on stage with Big D and the Kids Table. The crowds will be smaller too.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
That's true. That's true. I shouldn't get ahead of myself.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to me after the shows. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But if anyone's in those areas, by the way,
Oh,
definitely
please
come
do.
out, hang out with them,
Yeah.
check out some cool music.
Please come up. Tell me tell me hello. Say hello, and tell me you heard me through this super cool radio podcast.
That's right. That's right. So, so I'm kind of curious. So, with these, obviously, you got this run of shows with that you're headlining with your solo music. Do you have plans maybe in the future to do more headlining shows?
Yeah. I kind of want to get through this whole chunk of everything, the record release and those record release shows. And then I have, I'm eyeballing other shows and other plans, down the line. But nothing official and nothing that would be even close to being announced yet. Yeah. But I do plan to play as Ben Basile, playing Benergy again, for sure.
Well, I'll definitely be on the lookout for that, and obviously make sure to keep update, obviously, with your socials and everything as well. And of course, I said I will leave some links for Ben Basile in the description of this podcast. Make sure to come out, hang out with them, as I said. So now I'm kind of curious. So I usually ask, what's your favorite song to perform live? But you haven't performed the songs live yet. So I will pivot and say, what's your favorite Big D and the Kids Table song to perform live?
Sure. My favorite Big D and the Kids Table song to perform live is She Knows Her Way. It is on the second half of Strictly Rude, and it is my favorite song to play. Well, it's like a little bit of a downshift from the rest of the Big D stuff. It's a little bit of a slower, halftime kind of reggae. But it's my favorite song to play with Big D because I just play the same bass line the entire song.
Oh, I didn't notice how. I didn't know that.
Yep. And I get to just play that one bass line the entire time, and I don't need to think about anything else except for those three notes, and it's awesome.
Well, that works out pretty well for you.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite probably just because it contrasts all the other super, super, super busy Big D and the Kids Table bass lines where I'm just running around the guitar the entire time. So being able to chill for 5 minutes on the same bass line for the whole time is a nice break.
Well, kind of following up. So, what's the most complicated, most busy Big D and the Kids Table song to perform live?
Oh God, probably "Hell on Earth," which is also from that same record. Because the original bass player, Big D Steve Foot, wrote this crazy bass run in the second half of the verse that is a bitch to execute. And so every night we play it on stage, I take a step back, backstage a little bit and just take a deep breath and really focus on making sure I'm getting that bass line correct because it is super fast. So that's probably the hardest one because that's the only one that I need to take a breath in, check in, and then execute it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, if I see you live with that, I'm going to definitely pay attention to that bass part then.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, so now I got a few more things before we start wrapping up this interview. So I'm kind of curious for you. We talked about the recording side and the live performance side. So I'm curious for you. Do you approach recording music differently than performing live?
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting, right? Because with how much editing you can do in post for recording, it allows a little bit more flexibility, right? If you don't fully know the part or know the bass line, or if you're writing and developing it as you're going, right? Whereas live, there's you need to kind of just nail it, right? There's only one take and it goes. That's kind of a tough question because of how everything changes, right? But in the studio, you do actually want to play it as perfect as possible, but there's also the catch up that you can edit and tweak things if needed. Whereas live, you're also trying to play it as perfect as possible, but also if you make a mistake, it just goes by and it's gone. It's not there forever like it would be on a recording. But yeah, it's because the recording process has changed so much, and whether you're recording everything truly live makes a big difference. So yeah, they're pretty different. Yeah. Does that answer your question well enough?
Yep. Oh yeah, no. I'm just curious. I know it is a challenging question, but I'm always just curious, how people approach it. Because I consider two very different things.
Yeah.
Because yes, you have more time to make mistakes if you do make mistakes. But then if you do make a mistake and it's recorded and then it's released, then you know there's a mistake on there. And if you make too many mistakes, it costs you money to record
it. Yeah, totally.
There's like that whole.
Do you play an instrument, Matthew?
So I do not. I've not really. I want to get into music more, but obviously with all my commitments, I have not really. But I think I would be mostly the vocalist or frontman. That's about what I at least can do.
Yeah, I mean that's first off, that's great. I tell everybody this, that like we need listeners too, right? We don't need everybody to be a musician. We need people to come and hang out and listen to the music and support it, go to shows, you know. Yeah. So thank you for your service as a listener.
I definitely enjoy it because I love listening to, as we talked about earlier, so many different genres and styles of music. But also, this is kind of why I started the podcast, is just to hang out and interview people who I think like don't get as much recognition as I think they do. Like with you, like I really like the album, and I hope people do listen to it because I enjoy it.
Thank you. I enjoy it too.
Well, I hope so. Your name's on it.
Yeah, and face.
That's true. That's true.
You know, I didn't want to put my face on the cover for like a long time. I was against that, and then my graphic designer I worked with, Alan, he sent me this like one thing, and I was like, all right, yeah, I think I'm gonna do it. Fine, I'll put my face on it.
So, kind of going along with that, like, were you set on like having your name on this album, or were you gonna do like a pen name, pseudonym? Like, were you gonna do anything like that, or was it always gonna be Ben Basile?
It was always gonna be Ben Basile. Although now that the name Benergy is so good, I was kind of like, oh man, maybe I should have like made the band name Benergy, because like that name is so good it should last forever. But yeah, it was always just gonna be Ben Basile as a solo record.
There's some people who will release solo material, but they do it under like a different name or something like that because they don't want to put like their name on it, because there's a little bit of fear with like putting your name on something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just kind of leaned into it and went with a Ben pun for the title too. So it's like full on Ben Basile. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Ben everywhere.
Yep.
All right, so I have a fun question before we talk about your future plans for this year. So a question I've been asking my guests, because I'm just curious if you're in the situation, what music you listen to. So if you're driving in your car and you got to be somewhere quickly, what song are you listening to?
If I got to be somewhere, like your question,
like you're running late for, you got an appointment, you're running late.
Question is contingent on me running late. Okay.
Yes. Not that you're saying you are late. You're probably a punctual person, but in this situation, you're running late.
Oh man. So I mean, my first response would be like, I don't think I would put on a specific song for that. But to answer your question, if I was going to, I would probably put on something like skate punk ish. I'd probably go on and like put on Pennywise or something like that, just to like keep it totally moving. Every song is pretty fast, and I'd probably go ahead. Yeah, I'd probably go ahead and do that. Yeah, Pennywise
is a solid answer.
Like, yeah, sure.
I mean, I like that whole I grew up listening to like the Tony Hawk soundtrack, so absolutely. Like. All skate punk, like that's how I listened to like Bad Religion and all that. That's how I discovered all of them.
Bad Religion is my favorite band. Yep.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yep. And then deep fun fact for you and all the listeners of this podcast. My let's see, early 2001 AOL screen name was Pennywise.
Well,
so I have been doing Ben puns for a very long time.
Is that going to be the next album name?
No, I can't do that. But actually, Matthew, I literally haven't even thought about that until we just had this conversation where I was like, oh yeah, Pennywise. Yeah, I guess I have been doing this a long time.
And it comes full circle.
Full circle.
All right. Well, I got one follow-up question for the Bad Religion. What is your favorite Bad Religion album? Because I have
that would be The Process of Belief.
Oh, nice.
What's yours?
No Control, actually.
Oh, hell yeah. Cool.
Like that was like the first one I listened. That was the first one I bought on CD, actually. I went to a record show and I was like, I'm going to pick up some Bad Religion. And do I think it's like their strongest one? No, but it was also my first one that I listened to, and it is more like punk, like just straight punk.
Yeah. I mean, you got a band that's been around for 40 years. I mean, I absolutely listen to their records, and I think of them as like either by decade or by sound, right? Like I think of everything in like the early 90s and then like the late 90s when Brett wasn't there anymore, but then when Brett came back in like 2001, I think,
Give or take,
everything from there like absolutely changed. But I also think about the band a lot like by drummer too, just being a musician myself. I tend to love the era where Brooks Wackerman was the drummer. I think he's fucking unbelievable. So like that early 2000s era of Bad Religion is probably my favorite.
Right, no, I mean, honestly, I think with all that, they've all had like solid albums. Like I don't think they've had like one that's like, oh, this is not like on the level. Like
wait, hold on. Have you listened to their second record?
I've not. Wait, which is their second one?
So hold on, you got to listen to every record before you say something like that because they had the Into the Unknown record, which was like a full right-hand turn and did not sound anything like Suffer, which came before it.
Okay, I know Suffer. I didn't realize they had that one.
They had like an experimental progressive rock record in the 80s, and it was loathed by Bad Religion fans, and it almost made the band break up.
Really? Okay, I know. Okay. I'm not. I must not be that big of a fan. I did not realize. I know Suffer, and then like I know the late 90s, or late 80s, early 90s.
Like I think Into the Unknown was right in between No Control and Suffer.
Same.
Or was it Hell Could Hell Get Any Worse? It was somewhere within the first three records that they did that. They did this like record that was like it had synthesizers on it. It was like not liked at all. Yeah. I'm a huge Bad Religion fan. Yeah. So.
Well, you can tell I'm not as much. I did not know that.
Oh, I also don't really care for the Christmas record either.
When did they do that?
2014.
Okay, more recent. Okay.
Yeah. They have a whole Christmas record that's Bad Religion playing Christmas songs, and I'm like, I don't really need this.
Huh. All right, I gotta go back for the discography.
Oh, dude, I mean, their discography is huge. It's like they did a record every 2 or 3 years for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's my favorite band.
Right on. All right, so now on that note, as we're starting to close out this interview, so I'm curious for you, like, what are your plans and plans with Big D and the Kids Table for the rest of 2025?
All of the Benergy shows. So I'm getting everything ready for that. I got a whole box in the other room of all the merch and putting all that together and getting it all ready to go. After that, for the summer, I have some gigs, but I'm mostly planning like. Post Benergy, I'm going to take like 2 or 3 weeks off and just like do nothing but relax, cook food. I'm going to go to the beach and go surfing. I'm going to try to relax a lot this summer. Things pick up a little bit again in August. Some shows with Big D. I play with another band, an emo night karaoke band. So I have some shows with them for the later half of the year. And Big D is finishing up a record, which may or may not hit the 2025 calendar. I think we're still figuring that out. But yeah, just keep doing it. I teach lessons during the week and I play on the weekends as much as possible. And I travel all over all the time. Although I haven't been to Indiana in a while.
Well, maybe if you come, well, if you're in Indiana, I'll make sure to stop by and say hi to you. But you got some very cool plans for the rest of this year. I do hope you get to relax and surf and enjoy some time as well.
Yeah.
But you've been obviously very busy with everything, and I hope everything goes well. Obviously with the headlining shows and everything you're doing.
Yeah, I think you should drive over to New Jersey for the show. I think you should do it.
I'll see what I can do. I gotta talk to my agent.
Yeah, you and your brother, come on over.
I'll see what I can do. I'll put
you on the guest list. It's all good.
Okay, well then. All right. Well, I'll
save you $10 if you go all the way to New Jersey.
Okay, that's good to know. I just can't pump my gas at a gas station in New Jersey, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, before we get too deep with everything, I will leave some links for Ben Basile in the description of this podcast. Make sure to check out Benergy. As I said, it's out right now. It's on vinyl. Check it out. Give it a listen.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Matthew.
Of course. For Ben Basile, I am your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.
Yes.